My name is Whitney Ziegler. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Rocks Organizing. We are a small business local to the Portland, Oregon, Vancouver metro area, and we are queer owned and we assist clients with right sizing, unpacking, packing, move management, space planning, estate clearouts, you name it, anything related to organizing. We're here to help. Tonight, we're talking about this is our Ask the Organizer monthly series, and we're focusing on home offices and paper management. I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody in the whole entire world who doesn't have paper as a challenge. Do you? So, this is one of the number one requests and challenges. I see some hands go up that we get from our clients and people in our community. So we're excited to talk with you about this topic today. Today it's going to be a little bit different format where we're not going live into one of our team members' homes, just because with papers there can be quite a bit of confidential information. So it's going to be more of a theoretical and practical discussion, but it won't be a hands-on demonstration or a tour of one of our home offices. But we are excited to answer all of your questions. So before we dive in, I would love it really quickly if Jess and Kayla and Jean, if you could just wave. Feel free to introduce yourselves if you like, but I just want you all to meet part of our incredible team here. We have Jess, our operations manager, Kayla, who is a professional organizer and project manager, and Jean, who is our amazing executive assistant. So thank you all for your help today. I'm going to kick it off and open it up to you all. Do you have any burning questions about organizing your home office or managing paper? Deborah writes in the chat, stop the insanity. Absolutely.
Indeed.
Those paper piles, I think they multiply in the dark overnight.
I think that's a good starting point, though, like stopping the insanity of the influx of mail coming into our homes. I feel like that's a good first step. Everybody gets overwhelmed with mail and paper, and sometimes the paper tends to be just piles of unopened mail. So if we can reduce what's coming in, it's less that we have to deal with later. So we will share some resources, but getting on the National Do Not Mail list is an incredible first start to slow down junk mail, credit card solicitations, all that stuff that you wind up wanting to shred and having to deal with that doesn't even need to come in.
Absolutely. If it's first class mail, I have a stamp that I had made for myself that says return to sender. And then I cross out the barcode and I put on the back, take me off your mailing list. And then I send it back that way. So that's a way as well. Yeah, I saw a hand go up.
It was me.
Glenn. Hi, it's good to
Hi,
see you.
Hi.
Glenn.
Hi. I guess what I want to know is what do you need to keep and what can you let go of? I mean, that's really the big question. And as I go through boxes and boxes of paper, it's like, okay, what do I keep and what do I not? And I think I've sorted it down a lot, but I'd like to sort it down a little more.
Yes, I'm going to ask Jess to. We have a one-page handout called Document
I love
Retention Guidelines that we created for ourselves and our clients, and it's a really handy resource to use. So Jess is going to drop that in the chat. And Jess, would you be able to share your screen as well? And we could take a quick peek at that. And we'll also send it out in the follow-up email. So if you're not able to download it from the chat, don't worry. You got it, Sue. We've got you. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. So let's take a look at this, and hopefully this will be a helpful overview. But again, you're going to get your own copy of this. So things to keep for 1 year. And this is also for
the size
individuals.
okay for everybody before we start going through it. Let me know if I need to enlarge or not. Just drop a note in the chat.
Thanks, Jess. I know with my progressive lenses, this is a good size for me.
Good.
Yeah. So we won't read all of these out loud, but you can read for yourselves that how long to keep household bills, bank statements, things like that. Can you scroll down just a little bit? If you have a home-based business, how long to keep these items. If you own real estate or rental real estate, and then if you have a business. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Jess. So
Absolutely.
Gwen, hopefully this will be helpful to use as a guideline. If there's anything you're thinking of that you don't see on here, just holler and we can address it tonight. Or you can always email me as well, like you did today. So I think thank you for sharing, Jess. We've got some questions in the chat here, comments. Connie asks, how can I use my computer to electronically store documents I need to retain?
So there's two answers, right? There are the documents that come to you electronically, and then there are documents that you get in paper format that you want to save to your computer. So first step, you're going to want to have some kind of filing system in your documents that makes sense for you. Mine is very, very simple. It's legal, financial, personal, which is like love notes from my son, things like that. Very basic folders. You can go into subfolders as deep as you want. So it's pretty easy to just save something that comes through your email to your computer that way. It's different for everybody. Some people have native apps. I use Tiny Scanner app to scan documents, and then I email them to myself and save them to my computer. That way it turns it into a PDF for you.
Yeah, I use Genius Scan, which is a free app and it's available for Androids and iPhones. And it's really easy. It turns your phone into a scanner and it's really helpful for larger projects. I have a Fujitsu ScanSnap, which is really fast and it does papers of all different sizes, including receipts. So that has been helpful for me to go more paperless. We have another question in the chat and then we'll go to Amanda and Sue. So Laura asks, what's a good way to organize a desk? I have a decent sized desk, but it just keeps getting covered with piles of papers and miscellaneous. Does anyone on our team want to tackle that? Or anyone else who's here?
We have something we talk about at Big Rocks called the Sunday Basket, which is kind of a place for like pending projects and maybe papers in progress, bills you need to pay, a place for that to live. So this could be a literal basket, it could be a file or a folder too, but kind of setting up some guidelines for yourself of maybe once a week, I'll go through my basket, kind of check my most urgent requests, and then when you're looking for that urgent bill or party invitation or something that you need to find, you know exactly where to look for it. And I like the idea of if it is in a physical basket, it can be moved too. You can move this off of your desk. It could sit somewhere out of the way until Sunday or whatever day works for you to kind of go through that.
Yeah, I have a Sunday basket and it works pretty well for me. And I do it on Sundays actually, but you don't have to, as Kayla said.
Also, depending on how much paper you have coming in, I generally suggest a 3-tier paper organizer for your desk with the guideline that on the top is where you just throw your mail. You walk in the door, I don't want to deal with this right now. You throw it on the top shelf. As you open your mail, things that need actions, I need to pay this bill or I need to call this person, goes in the center, and then you can have the bottom shelf for stuff that you have to file. And doing it that way kind of limits how far you can let yourself get backed up. So if you have a basket this big, you're just going to pile it full and be like, oh, I could deal with it later. Oh, I could deal with it later. But when you deal with the trays, I feel like you're a little more limited space wise, and it prompts you to be like, okay, I have to go through the papers now.
I pulled up a picture of an example of a 3-tray system that might work for some folks. I personally like 5, and my other 2 categories are I have 1 tray for things that I'm waiting for other people to get back to me on so I don't lose track of them. And then the 5th tray, it can either be an outbox or for items that you reference frequently. So that's an option as well. I'll stop sharing. Amanda, thank you for your patience. And Jessica, if you could stop sharing your screen too, if you wouldn't mind.
My share is off.
Are other folks? Okay, there we go. Now I can see everybody again. Thank you. Amanda, what's your question? And Laura, I hope that helps. We also have a blog post about how to organize your desk. It's this month's blog, and it's on our website, and we'll send out a link in the email afterwards as well. And we have a prior Ask the Organizer where we had an ergonomic expert come and we talked about how to organize your desk and then how to choose the right office furniture for you. So I hope those resources will be helpful.
Cool. That I liked suggestions that were made, and I'll definitely read that blog post.
Awesome. And if we have time, we'll talk about zones, but we'll go over to Amanda. Thank you again for your patience.
Yeah, I was just wondering why you say to keep tax records forever. I have saved them all forever, but it seems unlikely that the ones that are 40 years old are ever going to be needed. What's your thinking?
I would double check with your CPA and see what they recommend. So most of them will say 7 years for personal records and 10 for business records, and that you only need to keep the supporting documentation for 3 years, because my understanding is that's as far back as the IRS can go and audit you. But double check with your financial advisor, your tax person.
Yeah, that was my understanding too. I just kind of wanted permission to throw away the 40-year-old.
You have our blessing to shred your heart out on those things.
I would just also like to note that Amanda came matching the team tonight, and I appreciate that.
Very much so. While we're talking about shredding, I just wanted to share some like affordable resources. So Office Depot offers shredding for 99 cents a pound. And UPS stores have it. I think it's 129 a pound there, so it's a little bit more, but depending on what's close to you, there are a lot of free shredding events in the community, typically around April, around spring tax time. And then there's also a local company, if you have a lot of shredding, like 5 bankers boxes or more, it's called Data Safe, and we'll put it in our resource list in the follow-up email, but they'll come pick it up for a very reasonable fee. I think it ends up being about $15 a box, depending on volume. The more volume you have, the cheaper it is per box. Sue, thank you for your patience. What's your question?
Actually, it's not a question. I have 2 resources to share.
Oh, please.
One is Pride Recycling in Sherwood. And the last time I took a box, and they take a small moving box for $8. Small moving box. And I had it full to the top. So I have no idea how much it weighed, but it was a lot.
Love it. That's a good deal.
Oh, it was a wonderful deal. So I keep that box in my car, and I keep adding stuff to it from a small bag in the house. The second resource is I scan in anything I want to scan in at one of the local libraries.
Okay.
Because I don't want to put that kind of apps and stuff on my phone, because I try not to do internet stuff on my phone. And I no longer have a scanner. I used to have a scanner, but I don't anymore. So the library works really well.
Awesome. When speaking of libraries, they also have the library of things. So not
Oh,
just
yes.
So you can, I think you can actually check out a scanner. Let's say you had a large scanning project and you wanted to just do it, but you didn't want to invest and purchase the scanner. You can borrow it from the library.
They also have shredders that you can borrow. I borrowed a shredder, yes, and I discovered the noise drives me insane. I'd rather pay for it, so I don't shred myself.
Hey, at $8 a box, that's worth it.
Yes, the police department is the one who told me about it, because I missed the yearly shredding event in Sherwood. So the administrative person told me about that. So I'm sharing it with everyone. That's it.
Thank you for that tip. Well, all those tips. Does anyone else have a resource that they'd like to share around paper management or office organizing?
I can speak to folks too who maybe have iPhones. If you don't want to download an app, there is a built-in scanner in the notes section of the iPhone, and you can scan directly with your phone. It's super easy to upload right into Google Drive if you use Google, or you can save it as a file on your phone. So that's a free option as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Kayla. Question, can you please list the shredding resource that Sue talked about? Yes. Okay. I think it's called Pride Recycling. And then Jean from our team, if you could try to put the link in here, that would be great. Okay, just added it. What else? What other questions? Let's see. Okay, Serena offered in the chat, you may need records older than 3 years if during an audit, the auditor has a question about something, in which case they can ask for the prior 4 years further back than the most recent 3. So 7 years total. But also Serena says, yes, check with your CPA and tax accountant. Thank you so much for that, Serena. That's very helpful.
We will send all of this in a follow-up email, but I feel like stopping the paper is a good first step. So I just dropped the link to the Do Not Mail registry in the chat for anybody who wants to immediately make it slow down.
As in, like right now while we're on the Zoom.
Mm-hmm. Do it. No time like the present.
No time like the present. And we will also send out other resources. There's catalogchoice.org where you can unsubscribe from catalogs. There is a paid app called Paper Karma. Has anybody used that? It helps you unenroll or unsubscribe from paper mailing lists. It is paid though, but I think you
I've
just
seen a few that are paid, but I've had really good success with the Do Not Mail list and it's free. So I would suggest not paying for it unless for some reason this free registry doesn't work, but it has for me.
It has for me too, and it can be forever. You can mail in a form so that it's, for life. It does take, it took me, I think, like 6 to 8 months to really nail it down. So you have to be a little bit persistent.
And I actually re-register every 6 months to 1 year because, the Do Not Mail goes out to whatever companies are sending solicitations. New companies could pop up. You could fill out a form somewhere and not realizing you're getting on some kind of mailing list. So periodically, just resubmit it since it's free. It doesn't hurt. And it just keeps cycling through all of these companies that do all these mass mailings.
Good advice. And for those who would like to try Paper Karma, my understanding is that you take a picture of your piece of mail, send it to Paper Karma, and they take care of getting you off that mailing list. And Sue, what would you like to share?
Freezing your credit card accounts makes them you don't get any credit card offers. It's wonderful.
And I do think that you can only do paid through Equifax, if I'm not mistaken, but I have credit freezes also, so that I have to unlock my credit cards for somebody to check my credit,
Yes.
open a new account, ask for,
That's true.
Yeah. So it comes with credit monitoring, which is great, but that is another good option. I don't get any credit card solicitations.
Yeah.
Same. All of my credit is frozen as well after having my identity stolen, which was
oh god,
so fun to deal with. Talk about paperwork.
I only get 5 or 6 pieces of mail every week at this point. I'm really, really cut it.
Good job. Jane writes, I had a robust folder/filing system on my computer until my son updated me. I lost everything because the quote unquote language had changed. I have not been able to recover them and was told I should have stored them on the cloud, which I never wanted to do. Jess or Kayla, do you want to speak to this?
I'll go quickly and then Kayla can chime in. I'm really sorry that happened. First of all, that's really upsetting and stressful. I've been there where a hard drive crashed and it wasn't fully backed up to the cloud. And I was crying at Geek Squad, literally crying at the counter. So I feel for you. I personally don't like the idea of storing, even though I have two-factor authentication on my Gmail and my Google account, I don't love storing financial documents, social security card or numbers, things like that in Google Drive. So I use iDrive and it runs on your computer. They do a constant running backup of your computer in the background, and it's really secure to the point where if you lose all of your data, they're going to send you an encrypted hard drive back to you that you have to call them to get a password to unencrypt to restore your data, which sounds like a lot of work. But if that package gets lost or in the wrong hands, it's a pretty great feature, so I feel pretty secure with that. My computer backs up without me doing anything, and I don't have to worry if it crashes, my hard drive fails, because that stuff happens, unfortunately.
It does. I use iDrive as well, and it's
Oh, do you?
about $100 a year. So for peace of mind, for me, it's worth it. And I think it covers multiple devices. So it covers my devices, it covers my spouse's devices, and
Mhm.
it's a ridiculous amount of data. I'm only using about 5% of what they can offer, So I've got a lot of room to grow. Not that I'm going to fill up everything, but
No, I think it's worth every penny.
yeah. Did anybody want to add anything to like digital backups? Is there anything that you do differently or any other resources that you have around that?
I guess I should just add, like, to really close the answer to the question of the security of storing things in the cloud. Like, I know I explained how you get the drive back if something happens, but it's not something like Google Drive, where if your Google account gets hacked, they now have access to your drive. Like, there's no way really for a person to like go to your iDrive account and hack it. It's very difficult, because even to go in and download data from the site, it's encrypted. It's pretty secure. So if you have hesitation around security, the paid version is going to be the way to go. Storing things on Google Drive, again, to me, doesn't feel as secure. So hopefully
or
that
another
makes you feel a little better.
or another cloud storage program. But making sure that your loved ones can access your computer or your phone if something happens to you.
Oddly enough, I have my book sitting right here that I have to put together for my son with all of the everything in it.
I couldn't see it because of the blur, but I've got like a little slim little 1/2-inch 3-ring binder that I labeled it like if I die or if something happens to me, and it has the basic information for my spouse to be able to to know where to start. Because for those of us in this room who've lost a loved one, and then you have to sort through all of their accounts and information and their physical items too, it can be so overwhelming.
Yeah, especially when it's just out of nowhere and you're like, I have no idea what to do. So it is nice to package things up for loved ones.
We have a resource called the Knockbox, which stands for Next of Kin Box. And they have kind of some different sizes and packages, but it's basically an all included kit that has different folders of categories of papers for your loved ones. And I think a big section in there is on passwords and how they can access, your files and things that they might need.
Yeah, and they frequently have sales, so don't pay full price. I got mine on sale. It's holiday weekend coming up, so thank you, Jean, for putting the link in the chat there. And we do not get any kind of commission, by the way, for anything that we recommend. I just want you to know that right now. We do not do affiliate links at Big Rocks. Anything else around passwords? Okay, what other paper and office organizing questions do folks have, or where are you feeling stuck? Maybe we'll go back to Laura's original question about organizing her desk and zones. Jess or Kayla, do you want to talk at all about zones and how you would approach organizing a desk with a client?
I'll let Kayla go because I talk too much.
No, you don't talk too much. Yeah, I guess my first kind of thought is, how is the space used, especially if it's a multi-purpose space? Because I guess that brings up another point, is that some of us don't have full rooms or spaces that, are a complete home office. Sometimes that's the dining table, maybe it's a corner of the living room. So I think we just have to be very intentional about, what items are in that space. How is that space being used outside of work hours? I had a client who had a really handy rolling cart that kind of acted as her home office cart. And at the end of the workday, it would slide under kind of the kitchen island bar stool nook and be kind of tucked out of the way. So that's kind of a consideration too, is how can you designate a work zone that isn't crowded with your daily life items? So I guess one other tip I would have for your desk space is maybe having a small box or a tray for any items to just gather for other parts of the house. So as you're starting to organize, instead of just, okay, I found this goes to the kitchen, I found this for the bedroom, just kind of pile it all in one spot. And then at the end, you can just kind of run all over the house and redistribute those items.
And folks do use their Sunday basket for that purpose as well. So if there are a few little things that are landing on your desk, throw them in the basket with the paper, and Sunday or whatever day you choose, go through your paper, rehome all those little items that wound up in your basket.
Yeah, great tips. Thank you both. And in the blog this month, Andrea, who's a former team member, she wrote it, and she doesn't have a home office anymore because one of her adult children moved back in and took over her home office. So her home office is now in a shoebox, literally. So she talks about in the blog how she right-sized her home office down to this one shoebox. So it's pretty inspiring and funny, and she shares some really great tips.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you need a laugh today, go to the blog because Andrea is a funny character.
She really is. Mari shares that Mari hates to file any encouraging words, and you're not alone. I myself hate to file things. Anybody want to share some inspiration and some tips?
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that when you get over that first hump, that pile that you haven't been dealing with for however long it's been, and you have a new system, it's kind of like smooth sailing. As long as even if you have to put it on your calendar once a week for Sunday or whatever day is convenient for you for an hour to do it and make sure you don't fall behind again, it's really just that first round of doing it that's really painful. So either put on music or call one of your friends who also has a desk full of paper and go through your paper together. Have somebody keep you company, put on a funny movie, whatever it takes to get you to just like focus and get it done. It's going to look different for everyone, I think.
Well, and speaking of focus, there's also a very affordable service called FocusMate. So it's like a digital accountability buddy. So you schedule a time, and this other person, this stranger, is going to show up on Zoom, and you've scheduled this time with them to work on your own things. So you have to show up because they're going to be there waiting for you. So that could be a good resource too. One client
And
we know,
right-sizing rock stars.
Right Sizing Rockstars, which is our free monthly virtual support group. It's non-judgmental. Please come tell us what you're working on, and then you set a goal for yourself and you come back the next month and share. And we also get a free 66-page workbook that shows you how to right size your home room by room. And we are also doing a giveaway. So every time you attend, you get entered into a drawing. And in December, we're going to draw and give away a free 3-hour session of organizing with 2 of our organizers. So it's a $570 value. And it's the second Monday of each month from 12 to 1 on Zoom. So we invite you to come to that if you're interested.
And for privacy, it's not going on YouTube or anything like the Ask the Organizer series. It's not recorded. It's private. It's just who's in the group that will see it.
Yeah. And things that are shared in the group stay confidential. So yeah, so we hope to see folks there. Another thought. So one of our clients, this is about emptying the dishwasher, but she races against making the coffee. So her goal is to unload the dishwasher before the coffee is ready. So I wonder if we could do that with paper too. Is there something like, can you set a timer, or can you race against the clock and make it a game and challenge yourself?
You could do it with music, like I am going to get this pile done in 3 songs. Clearly, I'm music motivated when it comes to getting things done that I don't want to do.
Or a reward. I like food, so I might say I'm going to have a little bit of ice cream if I get through this pile of papers. Whatever inspires and motivates you.
I think it can be hard to make time for something that we may not want to do. Like I feel like I hear a lot of folks saying, my filing, my papers, I'll just save that for a rainy day. And I think it's important to schedule time for yourself. So maybe once a year, once every 6 months, you can carve out a couple hours for yourself to really devote to some of these projects that can be really easy to just go, oh, I'll just deal with that, next week, next month. Especially with filing, if you can kind of set that recurring time for yourself just to kind of go through, continue to weed out papers you don't need. Because as a reminder, we file, I think we only use 20% of papers that we file. So that other 80% can just sit there and kind of take up valuable space.
Yeah, so be ruthless and very judicious about what you decide to keep, whether it's digitally or physically in your filing system.
I
Thank you
would
for that.
also like to make a confession so that folks don't feel alone in this. It may seem like nothing, but imagine for a moment that you're a professional organizer and you have a stack of papers this big on your desk for an entire month. An entire month it sat there, and I didn't want to deal with it because it was small enough. I didn't go over the size limit that I set for myself. And I finally forced myself to do it. So know that you're not alone. Like, we have things like that we get behind on as well. We don't like doing it either. But I got through it, and now I sit down at my desk. I'm like, this is amazing. There's no paper on my desk again, and I feel better. That's the motivation. Sitting down, being like, I finally did it.
Good job, Jess.
Thank you. It was
Something that-
hard.
It is hard when you get backed up like that. Something that helps me is my mailbox is maybe 100-yard walk from the house. So I will open the mail as I'm walking back from the mailbox and kind of sort it and just drop it in the recycling bin before I get to the house. But then there are those papers you need to actually do something with, right? And those can tend to pile up. Ellen, do you have a question or a resource?
I have a question, and I apologize if you covered it or if this is outside the box of what you're discussing, but I just retired last year and I have 30 years of records that I've kept from various jobs I've had. And have you talked a little bit about how you go back and deal with those boxes you threw in your attic of papers that how to just start on that, because it just feels so overwhelming
It
to do.
It really can feel overwhelming because each piece of paper is a decision, and there might be 1,000 pieces of paper in each box. So no wonder it's overwhelming, right? What I have done in the past is like put on a movie and try to do one box a week or one box an evening, whatever you have the bandwidth for, and just kind of sit there and sort. Do other folks have other ideas besides having a body double, like having a friend or a loved one, someone who's non-judgmental there to be with you too as an anchor? They could be doing something completely different. They don't have to be sorting paper too, but just having that body double can be helpful as well.
I think it's helpful to not look at the pile of boxes, right? Because of course anybody would be overwhelmed, even if it's 4 boxes. Like, it's 4 boxes of papers, which not only hold a million decisions, but there could be memories, feelings, sentimental paperwork, which we will also send a resource for. So there's a lot that goes into it. Sometimes it's not just a box of paper all the time. So I would say just don't even necessarily take one box. If you're feeling really overwhelmed, open the box, take a quarter of the papers, put them on your desk, and go through them at your own pace instead of looking at, I have 5 boxes of papers I have to go through. Just give yourself a stack. I have 1 stack of papers to go through. And then the next week, I have 1 stack of papers to go through, and just chip away at it. It's not as overwhelming if you break it up for yourself.
That's good advice. Yeah, because I think I'm overwhelmed by the 8 boxes.
Yeah, of course.
That also includes, like commendation letters or whatever. And you're like, oh, I want to keep that because maybe I'll want to look at that and feel good about myself that they actually like me, because no one, whatever, it's stupid things like that. And yet you never look at it. And, maybe you're going to suggest we'll scan it and put it in some other place. But then I'm also trying to reduce electronic files. So anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have a Smile file, Ellen. It's a slim file that I have where I keep those commendation letters, or maybe somebody sent me a nice note. So occasionally I'll print out an email if somebody sends something that's really lovely. And then if I'm having a hard day, I can pull out my Smile file and flip through it and look at some of those things.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Sue shared about 23 boxes of paper in storage. You're definitely not alone. I said it's time for a paper party, and Sue asked, what's a paper party? That's a good question.
I'm like, don't threaten me with a good time. I'll tackle your 23 boxes.
Well, yeah, sometimes it is helpful to bring in others, whether it's a friend, a loved one, or a professional. We have done some serious paper sorting, oftentimes for estate cleanouts. One time our team had, it was an entire guest room with 2 deep closets full of papers. This couple had neurological challenges and they hadn't opened their mail in 9 years. And so they would bring it in every day and put it in this bedroom. And it was literally like you couldn't walk into the room, and it was floor to ceiling closet stuff full of paper. It took us about 4 hours a day, 3 weeks, 2 people to get through it. But we found the titles to the cars. We found the tax information that their power of attorney needed to back file taxes for them. But we were, able to go through it at rapid speed. So if you can set up some folding tables or a workspace and have a friend, family member, professional come help you pre-sort, pre-categorize, I highly recommend that.
And then
we
Whitney,
Go ahead.
Serena also had a question that I feel like you might have a resource for that I don't off the top of my head.
Okay, let me take a look. Are you able to?
So
Okay.
she's got a concept. She has an open office between her living room and dining room and wants to hide things in plain sight, basically, and has the concept in her mind, but doesn't have a space planner, designer, or builder to help her execute her vision.
Okay. Are you wanting a referral, Serena, to somebody who can help with that? Or someone with the creative aesthetic who can come in and advise?
That would be good. I think so.
Okay. We could definitely do that.
Okay.
I am working with her right now on remodeling my mom's bathroom and drawing plans. So her name is Susan G. She's fabulous, and we've worked with her for 8 or 9 years now, and I'll send her your way.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'll make a note to myself.
I had some filing suggestions.
Oh, please. Please share.
So I had started out, I have a 2-drawer filing cabinet, and I started out making a separate hanging file for each. I think this is kind of like how you would do in an office. It was essentially for each vendor. And I realized that it was slow. It was really slow for me to file, and a lot of the folders just had very few items. So I did not go as far as some people have said to like only have 3 or 4 folders, but I did group the ones that I did group them and like into utilities, credit cards, paper from credit cards. And so just put all the utility stuff and all the credit cards, and then a folder for taxes for each particular year, for the current year. And then I would make a folder for taxes for the next year, so it would be there in January. So I wouldn't have the excuse of having to make a new folder. Anyway, just if you find you have a lot of folders with not a lot in them, just try grouping them. And I wasn't even expecting it to make my filing faster at all, but it really sped things up.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying with my electronic files, like very simple, financial, legal, personal. It doesn't have to go super deep. It's very rare we even access the files. So we're going to know if we need, a bank statement, it's going to be in financial. We don't have to know it was Chase, right?
Right. And that reminds me of another thing I wanted to say about Ellen's thing from past. I had a bunch of boxes from my last career before I retired. And then I was going to move. And so I had to deal with them fast. And I realized that there were really only there were only 2 categories of things. And then anyway, what I did was I was like, what can I get rid of? I'm gonna shred all this. I'm gonna be a responsible ex-employee, you know, shred all that stuff, get rid of a whole bunch. The few things which I just made one folder for that company, and actually I think I changed it to like a small box and just put it all in there, like everything that really belonged to them, and then things that I would want to reuse, you know, for my own time or whatever, or that I happen to have in there, like things that Whitney pulls out into a smile file, you know, like, okay, pull those out. But the only thing I would think, what could this company come back to me and possibly want to see? Those things I will keep, and it's just in a box with that company name on it. And when I get a little bit older, that box is going to get a label on it, which would just say, just shred when I'm gone. You know, like, don't even bother to open this. We had to do a family member, like you said, and there was a lot of work, and that kind of approach helped me get through it. Thanks.
Thanks so much for sharing those tips, Laura. I 100% agree. I think oftentimes our clients tend to over-categorize and create too many files. And I think it's better to have fewer files and more papers in them than the other way around. One time we did an estate clean out for a woman who had been 95 and she'd been born in the house, literally lived there her entire life, 95 years. She had one piece of paper in every file, and she had kept every single receipt, every single paper she'd ever gotten in her life. So our team we had to go through every file so we didn't miss anything important, but
Yep.
we literally had this huge recycling dumpster just completely full of those files. So
Yeah, I can believe it. Yep.
yeah, simplifying is definitely the way to go. It can be a struggle for those of us who identify as being neurodivergent. Sometimes our brains have a hard time categorizing and choosing the categories and figuring out what's important. So working with, you know, somebody else who can support your brain wiring and help you decide on categories can be really helpful. Whether it's a friend, a family member, professional.
Yeah.
And also, if you don't want to do that, just start really simply and just create a file for each year, because a lot of folks have years worth of papers backed up. And if you go through and find the few things that you probably need to keep and just put it in a 2024, 2025, you're going to know if you get audited or something crazy comes up like, oh, I bought that dishwasher in 2025. There you go. So sometimes even just keeping it really, really simple to get you started can be helpful.
Right. And just putting papers in those files, that 20% that you're actually using, that you pull and find.
Yeah, I was tempted to ask Laura if she has ever had to go back to the box. Probably not, right?
No, I have not. Nope. But
Yeah.
I know it's there, so.
It is. I wondered if you could offload it to
Oh,
your
I take it back.
employer.
I did have to go back because they wanted a password. And I went in there and amazingly I found it.
Oh, wow.
And
Good job. I
I'm
wonder though if that box could become your former employer's monkey. Can they be responsible for storing it rather than you?
my feeling, it's such a small amount. I don't want to deal with them. No,
Okay, just
Yep,
checking
I'm
in.
fine.
Okay.
It'll go.
Sue, thanks for your patience. What would you like to ask or
Not
share?
a problem. I used to work in high tech as a document, creating documents and training materials, and I was a contractor. So every time I finished a contract, I gave them everything. So it wasn't my monkey anymore,
Nice.
which helped a great deal. The filing system I picked up because a friend has finally convinced me I'm neurodivergent. I didn't realize it. And I can think, it's like, okay, where did I put the information about the car? Which file is it in? Well, gee, could I have put it under car or Subaru or auto? What I have is a filing system that's all numbers. Each file has a number. And then I have a notebook and it's alphabetized so I can look under A, auto. Oh, okay, it's file 153. If I think of Subaru, I go under S for Subaru, and I go, oh, it's file 153. It is amazing. I got it from a guy back east 40 years ago, a class he taught. It was just amazing. And I have trouble alphabetizing. So therefore, the number system is nirvana for me. That's it.
Oh, great. That's a really important point that you make, that each of us, we have different brain wiring. And so one,
So while Whitney's frozen again, we'll also respond to Jane's comment. She said her husband has dementia and she saves a smile file for him to go through and read a piece a day. I actually
Sincerely
take pictures
apologize.
of all of
Marion
my
suggests-
greeting
or go
cards
ahead.
as well, and do the same thing kind of for the smile file. Like all the greeting cards I get go into a folder on my phone, and then they get transferred to the computer at some point. And one day in the near or far future, I should say, I'll have that one file on my computer that I can refer to for tons of smiles.
Hey, thank you, Jess. Am I back officially?
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. Marion Matt Beyer that you mentioned in the chat is one of our NAPO colleagues. So I'd be curious if you could put the link. That would be wonderful to see. His filing system is working well for her, or organizing system. Jane writes that her husband has dementia and she saved all of his smile file items. Sorry, Jess, did you just cover this one?
Indirectly.
Indirectly. Okay. And now he often reads a piece a day out loud to his caregiver so he can hear again what he did, who he was, and the caregivers get to know him better. It's been great. I love that, Jane. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's awesome. Oh, and Sue loves your idea, Jess. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
greeting cards are something that is hard for folks to let go of. And I get it, right? Like I had cards from my mom and she's gone now and I don't have those cards anymore, but I can go on my computer on my little file and find my cards and reminisce, and they're still there without me having to keep the paper.
I wanted to address a couple other things. One thing with the filing system, no matter which system you choose, it could be helpful to have a one-page table of contents that you keep in the very front of your filing system, just to remind you, because if you don't file very often, or maybe you use a file once a year, or maybe you've got files in different locations, like some that are kind of hot that you use more frequently and some that are cold storage, it's just good to remember what files you have, what categories you have, and where to find them. So that's the tip I wanted to share. Thank you, Marion, for putting the link in the chat. Appreciate it. Something else, we oftentimes will walk into a client's house. I had a client one time and the floor was her filing cabinet. She would literally just toss papers on the floor and it was about 6 inches deep and she was tripping and falling and it was a big safety hazard. So if you have a large volume of papers and they're things that they don't need to be addressed right away, you're not using them every day, I suggest boxing them up and getting them out of the space and then dealing with them one box at a time. Because then too, you don't have that visual clutter and that overwhelm, and you can tackle it, like Jess said, one little stack at a time.
Yeah, and if you actually have like a floor filing system where each of your piles is organized, in your own fashion, just make a folder for whatever that pile is to you in your mind and then stick it in the box. This way you kind of know what you have when you go back to it. You can prioritize where you want to start.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with piling. Some people say it is the right way to pile or to file, and there's no right way to be organized. It's whatever works for your brain. But when it becomes a safety hazard, that's definitely a boundary that we need to put in place. I also wanted to ask if people have guidelines that they set for themselves. So if you get the newspaper or you get magazines or catalogs, we often have these good intentions of, I want to read that someday, and then they start to pile up. Do you set guidelines for yourself on how long you'll keep something? And if you haven't read it, do you recycle it? Do you have any strategies that work for you?
Myra says no.
That's one of the things one of the problems I have, and I'm waiting to hear responses for help because I tend to hold on and hold on and hold on to things, not just magazines and newspapers, things I've got, the pieces of paper. So yeah, I would love some insight about dealing with that. It's a big problem for me. I'm ashamed to say.
Please don't feel ashamed.
I'd like to chime in if I could.
Please do.
So I have that problem. I save a lot of old magazines because there could be something important in there that I, like in what's that, Real Simple magazine, I think it's called, or HGTV, like all those kinds of things. But so I'm downsizing now, and so trying to get rid of stuff. And when a place says they take magazines no more than 3 months old, then I feel like, okay, I just got a limit set, and maybe that's a good limit for me too, because these things that I'm saving in the house are considered garbage to most people. So I should get rid of them. I have a hard time with AARP, the magazine, and also the newsletter thing, because I think I should be reading this, because there could be important information in here that, as a senior citizen, I'm not going to get otherwise, being single, not having somebody with me. And so those do tend to stick around a little bit longer, but at some point they end up being like a coffee trivet, or a cup trivet or something, and they end up with rings on them, and they get tossed because they're messed up. Can I go back and say something about Matt Baer, I think is his name?
Of course.
When I was watching his organizing videos, I came to the realization that I should know why I'm saving something. And as soon as I started looking at something and saying, why do I want to save this? When would I want to use this? That helped me to be more involved in the process than just knowing or being told this is what you should do. So there are some things that I save, and I save them because I know that I'm going to want to retrieve them for some reason, and that helps me knowing why. And it also then helps me to know how to file it. And I really love his filing system. It's really helped me. I still have a mess of files because I started it and haven't finished it, but knowing why helps me.
Thank you so much, Marion, for sharing that. And we'll check out Matt's filing system. I always like to learn different systems because, like I said, each of us has different brain wiring. So when we're working with clients, we need to come with multiple tools in our tool belt so that we can collaborate with clients and find something that works for them.
Yeah, that's so true. I tried different filing methods and nothing stuck until I watched him. And it's like, oh.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found your system.
Yeah.
I think just overall, though, we do tend to complicate systems. So if we could try to keep them as simple as possible. Something, too, that our clients tend to do is want to use multiple colors for folders, which can be great. But if you run out of that color, then it kind of breaks the system until you get more. And then there's this friction, this barrier in place. So we also recommend just using one color if you can, just to keep it simple.
Yeah, it's another added layer of stress. Like, oh no, I have to file this and it's yellow and I don't have yellow.
Right. It kind of breaks the system. And Kayla, thanks for sharing in the chat that Scrap PDX, which is a local nonprofit, will take art, craft, photography, and National Geographic magazines. So you could donate read or unread magazines there. And that's great.
And there are some things, remember, too, that you can access online. Like if you're saving a flyer because you want to remember a particular store, you could go to that store's website and bookmark it, and then you have it for later. So there are ways to get rid of the paper without letting go of what it is you're trying to keep a record of.
Absolutely. Does anyone else? I think we have time for one more question, comment, resource. I hope this has been helpful tonight for folks. Oh, wait, I saw a hand go up. Myra?
Perhaps this was covered before I got on or when I was distracted for a moment. and it's a big topic. I don't expect you to be able to spend a lot of time on it, but the idea of sentimental, even paper. I went to an event, or there's a picture on the there or something I want, whatever. That's sentimental. Oh, I want to hold on to it, and I don't know how to deal with that aspect of the stuff that I don't need for tax purposes or for my home or anything like that. How do you deal with sentimental stuff?
Good question. I actually wrote a blog post specifically about how to deal with sentimental papers. So Jess, thank you for putting the link in the chat. We also have a past recording of an Ask the Organizer that was on that specific topic. So we have, I think, one that's on paper and one that's on other sentimental items, Myra. So hopefully those will be helpful for you. I just want to remind you all, so next month, it's the first Tuesday of the month. It's going to be on August 5th, same time, 5 to 6 p.m. And we'll be talking about how to organize your art studio and craft rooms. So please bring your questions, comments, resources, anything you'd like to share. Also just want to remind you about the Right Sizing Rockstars free accountability and support group. That's completely non-judgmental, where you get the free workbook and the entry into the possibility to win a free organizing session with 2 organizers for 3 hours. It's going to be on Monday, August 11th from 12 to 1 p.m. And for those of you who are here attending live, I would like to offer you $50 off of a home organizing session with our team, should you choose to schedule with us in July. Just want to offer a thank you gift for attending today. I hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much for coming. And thanks for sharing your resources, challenges. We really appreciate you. I hope you have a good night and stay cool.
Mm.